Magnuson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Excited to be here.
I'm super excited to talk to you. I know you have so much wisdom up your sleeve, so much experience, so many life stages, really. So I'm really interested to hear all about your story and what you are teaching at Effort Over Results Coaching. So, yeah, welcome. And I'm looking forward to, or I would love to hear what's the number one thing you're excited for our listeners to learn from this conversation.
Well, understanding your audience and you and I having previous conversations, I want to keep this health and wellness based. And I think where effort over results really applies itself the best is having people understand that you can have goals when it comes to health and wellness, whether it be weight loss or strength gain and areas like that. But it's really just about being consistent and being disciplined in your efforts and allowing yourself to just go down that path without expectation,
Mm.
because when we place those expectations on ourselves too firmly, we this is where we get frustrated. This is where we give up. This is where you have yo-yo diets and things like that. And I think what people need to understand is that this is a long-term journey and it could see results in a few weeks. It could take a few months. Who knows? It could take a year. But I've got some really good stories to talk about, anecdotal, that will really illustrate that. So that's what I want to talk about is effort over results philosophy, but now applied to human health.
Amazing. Very cool. I love this topic. I love the topic of consistency and even more so having a long-term mindset. And I guess speaking of long-term, tell us a little bit about yourself, your story, how you got to where you are today in terms of your coaching and your own health.
Yeah, so I'm 54 years old, so I got a lot, like you said, wisdom and experience. So I feel like the old owl in the room. But my background comes from a very athletic background. So I had an uncle that played professional hockey in the NHL. I've had three cousins that all played, high Division One college football, baseball, and hockey down in the United States. One won a national championship. Two more went on to play in the NHL. I had a cousin that played Major League Baseball. Another one that played in the CFL, which is the Canadian Professional League, and then myself who played Canadian professional football. Just hugely athletic background within my family, and so that's what I grew up around was heavily results based because it's about wins and losses, especially when you're growing up in the 1980s. But where my health journey really started, and this is the kind of cool story that I want to share with your audience, is I had finished playing football in 1997, and I was roughly 305 pounds at the time, which I know maybe your audience is like, that is massive, that's huge. But the funny thing about football right now is that that's average. For my position that I play, 300 pounds is like average. But retired at 300 pounds and really struggled over the next, I would suggest, 15 years deciding on like, do I really need to stay at 300 pounds? Because I felt good, but my body really, my body really didn't need to be carrying 300 pounds around. But my mindset was, and because my identity was being a football player and big and strong, I tried to stay at 300 pounds. The problem was is I wasn't as active. I wasn't going to practice every day. I wasn't in the weight room every day. And that 300 pounds kind of got a bit sloppy, so to speak. And so I went through these different mindset changes of, okay, I'm not a football player anymore. I need to change my mindset. I need to become a little bit healthier. So when my daughter was born in 2000, this is 3 years after I retired, my wife and I decided to go back to the gym religiously and very disciplined and lose some weight, and did very well. We both did very well. In fact, I dropped down to 252, which was. But see, you got to understand me, Lisa. I'm competitive, and so very obsessed with like I'm going to win this game. So I lost roughly that 40 to 50 pounds in about a 6 month span. And I felt awesome. At 250, 260 in there, I felt just fantastic. But then I was like, you know what? I kind of felt like I lost a lot of my muscle gain. I didn't really feel myself anymore. I couldn't identify as a lighter person. And so I started gaining the weight back. And so I got back up to 290 again. So this yo-yo back and forth, trying to, and what it was really psychological. This really had nothing to do with anything other than just the psychological mindset of who am I?
Mm.
And my entire life, I was always the big kid. I was always the biggest player on the field. I was always a big person. And so I struggled with that. And here's where the story really takes a great turn. In 2022, I was down in the United States visiting my son. He was also on a football scholarship at University of Arizona, and I went down in the spring to visit him and just play golf and have fun for a week. I was 292 pounds at the time, but my shoulders, and I'll add to this story, I've had one, two, three, nine orthopedic surgeries. Um, I've had five shoulder surgeries, both hips replaced, a knee reconstruction, a wrist, L4, L5 back discectomy. That's five, six, seven. Oh my God, that's more than nine. Anyways, I've lost count. I've lost count. But at 290, my this is why I ended up having the hip replacements. My body couldn't carry the weight anymore, at least not healthily. My shoulders were really struggling. And we had just finished a round of golf, my son and I. And, the night was kind of winding down, and I'm sitting there on the couch, and he comes over and he sits beside me, and he kind of just pats me on the leg. And he's like, you know what, Dad, you really need to get your together. I won't swear on your show. He goes, you really need to get your together. And I was like, yeah, I know. I go, you're talking about my weight, right? And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, I hate to see you suffer. Like your shoulders are killing you, your back's killing you. You're barely able to finish a round of golf. He goes, this isn't good. He goes, well, what can we do to change that? Coming from your 21-year-old son, um, it hits you a little differently because now your kids are recognizing this and they're mature enough to recognize unhealthy behaviors. I was, drinking regularly. This was obviously just post-COVID, and so everybody got into got into alcoholism quite badly during COVID. I was just kind of eating whatever, and I said, you know what, kid? I go, you're right. And so him and I the next morning sat down at the breakfast table, and he actually wrote me out a plan. And this is a kid who had no like necessarily no nutritional background, physio, nothing. But I mean, he'd been in the environment at the University of Arizona on the football team to know what good nutrition was and to, how to apply that to life. And we sat down and, we created a plan. And the plan was stop drinking, which probably was the hardest part, to be honest. But I'm realizing now how important it is to just not intake alcohol, but stop drinking. No eating after 8 p.m. That was my goal. Don't eat after 8 p.m. Don't eat before 10 p.m. So an intermittent fasting type approach, 14-hour. Drink way more water. Stretch every day. It wasn't about exercise necessarily. It was about keeping the body moving. Because he goes, Dad, he goes, you're 50 at the time. He goes, in 10 years, you're not going to be able to move at all, considering all the surgeries you've had. He goes, you need to do a lot of prehabilitation, right? And so we put together this plan. And the other one was to walk. When I play a lot of golf, he's like, you need to walk your golf rounds. Don't get in the power cart.
Mm.
And
Good.
I did that. That was in April, and I did that all summer. So that was April, and by July, end of July, so 3 months, I had actually dropped to 270. So 20
Just from
pounds
doing that, that's amazing.
just from doing, in fact, the dropping the drinking, because when I drink, I eat.
Mhm. Yeah.
So dropping the alcohol allowed me to focus more on the nutrition part of it. And then just, and also the intermittent fasting. I can't speak enough to the benefits of intermittent fasting if done properly,
That's
and understanding what works for you.
hmm
And intermittent fasting isn't just skipping breakfast. I mean, it's a deliberate time set each day that you have a window to eat in. I'm sure your audience knows that. But I did this, so I got down to 270. Ultimately, I got down to 260 by the end of the year. And I've kind of been between 260 and 270 ever since for the last couple of years. Never ballooned up more than 275, really never dropped down below 255, but kind of in that nice happy zone of 260 to. And you got to remember, I'm 6'5", and this isn't a pat on my back, but I carry my weight well. Like I 270, I look 240. My
hmm
son's the same way. At 300, he looks like he's 260. And I just absolutely love it, Lisa. Like I love the fact that my joints don't hurt as much. I love the fact that I wake up in the morning with more energy. And so I started absolutely just geeking out on nutrition and supplementation. Got onto AG1s. That's not a plug. Got onto AG1s. Started more omega-3, like the liquid omega-3s. The supplementation became better. Creatine every day. And now at 54, I probably look and feel as good as I did at 40. And this is what I love about it and why I'm so excited to be on your show today.
Very, very, very cool. So thank you for giving us that part of your background story. And there's so many parts to that. So I love that you recognize alcohol as a big part of this. And I mean, even just dropping that would have reduced the inflammation in your body significantly. The other thing is that just by moving more, by, being mobile and walking your golf rounds, you were probably also like encouraged that way to eat better, to make better choices. Like if we're consuming alcohol, inhibition is lowered. We're more likely to order the burger and the fries versus a steak and a baked potato, for instance. Like it really sounds like all the things that you implemented were also pretty doable. Like you weren't saying like, oh, I'm gonna do alternate day fasting and eat nothing at all one day and then allow myself whatever I want the next day. Like in this all or nothing thing, it was like, no, okay, I can do 8 p.m. This is a feasible time. It still allows me to take my wife out on date night or whatever it might be. It allows me to have something before my workout. Perhaps if I'm doing a workout and you were hydrating yourself. So like so many good things that probably just immediately led to less inflammation in the body, less puffiness, more energy, as you mentioned, for your work as well. And one thing cascades into the other. What I'm really curious about though is because you said initially when you lost the weight, what made it not stick was that you did not identify as a slimmer person. And so then versus now, what was the switch in your mind? And the reason I'm asking this is because, again, like really what or I'm also trying to work against is people not maintaining their results. Like that
Yeah.
would break my heart. And so I always want to make sure that we change the identity along the way, which is so much easier said than done. So yeah, I would love to hear from you. What was the difference then
Mhm.
versus now?
Yeah. I think for me, my identity changed from being the big football player to being a father and a husband. And for me, I wanted to do this for my family and I wanted them to, because my family's respect means everything to me, and especially for my kids. But my wife had even said to me, and it's interesting because she teaches spin classes and Pilates classes, but she said to me, she goes, when we retire and we decide to go traveling, in our 50s and 60s, she goes, I want you to be able to walk with me. I want you to be able to walk through Mykonos, Greece, and through the hills of Italy and things like that. And she goes, and I'm just so afraid you're not going to be able to do that. And that hit different, right? It made me feel a little bit more accountable to not just myself, but obviously to us as a couple. And we've been married almost 30 years now. And so that's kind of where the journey started. So it was my son, saying, being concerned. It was my wife being concerned. But identifying now as someone who is, and if you saw me now, like if I get below 250, I look gaunt. Like I look absolutely way too thin for 6'5", which is crazy because my BMI says I'm obese, and I hate the BMI.
Yeah.
But um, the psychological change came from deciding that I did, it wasn't about an end weight goal. It was more just a lifestyle change and how it made me feel and how making those little moves, like you said, Lisa, they weren't huge moves. It was like reduce alcohol or eliminate it, don't eat after 8 and before 10, and drink more water,
Mhm.
and be more active.
Mhm.
But I think where people really struggle the most, and I actually in my new book that's coming out in the fall, I use the phrase "put your gym bag by the door," and this actually applies very specifically to our conversation today. Is number one, people have a fear of going to the gym if they're overweight, if they've never been in the gym before, if they've never really been active in their entire life, and so that first barrier is there. getting to the gym is sometimes the hardest part.
Mhm.
Just literally stepping out the door, getting in your vehicle or whatever, and just getting to whatever facility you're going to. And so here's another great story. My daughter, and this applies to what I'm saying, but my daughter was an amazing high school athlete, went to the United States on a scholarship like my son did. COVID happened, so she came home, but she was in like peak shape in 2020. She comes home, basically we can't go anywhere because of COVID. She ends up ballooning. Like she's 6 foot as well, like my wife's 6 foot. And she ballooned up well over 200 pounds, wasn't eating well, just kind of just the lifestyle was not good. And I was so saddened by seeing this. And I just said to her, I said, well, why don't you come to the gym with me couple times a week? She's like, yeah, okay, sure. I said, I'll even pick you up. And I said, we'll grab coffees on the way. And so we did that for a couple weeks. And every time she would find a way to have an excuse to not go. And she kept saying, you know what, Dad? She goes, I don't feel good about myself right now. And she goes, and I just don't want to be there. And I said, how about this? I said, is your gym bag even packed? She's like, well, kind of. And I said, all right, just put it by the door. Leave it there. And then I just kind of I let her let it sit there for a few weeks because every time she left the apartment, she had to see this gym bag by the door. And a few weeks later, she calls me and she goes, I'm on my way to the gym. Will you meet me there? I'm like, yes, absolutely. I'll drop everything. And so we met and then she got there and she kind of shied away again. And then I said, how about we just sit and watch people work out? I said, I know that sounds silly, but I said, let's sit at the pro shop, let's grab a smoothie, a proper smoothie. I said, we'll kind of just get into the environment. And that kind of worked. We never did work out that day, amazingly enough. And then the following week, she goes, can we just go, hey, Dad, can we go to the gym again? I just want to sit and kind of just be in the environment. I'm like, sure, let's do it. So we did that. And then week three, she goes, well, my gym bag's here. She goes, let's go, let's just go walk on the treadmill and talk and watch TV. Okay. And it was those little, just baby steps that got her to just immerse herself in the environment and feel more comfortable about herself, kind of see, what's going on around her. Who are the types of people that are in the gym? Are they big muscle heads who are, looking at you with disapproval, or are they just average everyday people? And I said, Annika is her name. I go, Annika, the people that I love to see in the gym the most are not the muscle heads. They are the overweight people. They are the misshapen people those are the people that I stand there and I smile and I just go, you had the guts to go to the gym today. No, I know you don't want to be here, but you did it. But you have to sometimes take those small steps. And this is where the psychology part comes in, is that when people decide to make health changes, they kind of go all in
Mm.
and they get defeated right away because they set these goals that are unattainable. They set numerical goals, especially on the scale, that every day they get on the scale and it's like this back and forth of +1, -2, +2, and throw the scale out. Throw it out because you don't need something reminding you of a number that really doesn't matter. Because if you're going consistently and you look in the mirror and you like what you see, or maybe you don't like what you see, that will be the indicator. But where you need to take pride in the fact you're putting the work in.
Mm.
You may not see results right away. I can guarantee you're not going to see results right away. But if you go daily, or even if you went 4 times a week and you just say, okay, my only goal is just getting to the gym 4 days a week. Even if you don't do a whole lot when you're there, you're there. 100% of just being there is just being in the environment and doing whatever kind of just comes naturally and fun to you. And this is where I want people to hear the message of effort over results. Forget the results. Stop setting the goal. Stop setting the outcome. Because you're already imagining this finish line that you have no control over.
There is,
And
yeah, there is honestly so much brilliance in this, and I know we also spoke about James Clear's Atomic Habits sort of strategy with like really the teeny tiniest little things. And honestly, I think it sounds so No, it doesn't sound ridiculous. It sounds so minor. So, like, what is that going to do? What's that good going to do? But as you mentioned, it exposes you to the environment, to the people. Maybe you see, oh, there's other people that are actually heavier. Or that
Yeah.
person also has no idea how to use this machine. I actually kind of know how to use that
Right?
machine. Like
Yeah.
it builds that confidence in you, and it more than anything, it, as you mentioned, it creates that habit of like going there, which is the hardest part. And to backtrack that a little bit further, when you said the reason that it stuck this time was because you had a bigger why. You didn't have
Yeah.
just you. It was not just about something vain. It was about for my family to do this activity, to be able to be around for my grandchildren or whatever for longer, to be able to do stuff without pain. So I really, really love that. And I think it's so important to kind of like ha get clear on a why when we set goals. And that leads me to a question, which is, how do we even figure out what we should want? Because I think so often people know I don't like where I'm at right now. I don't feel maybe good in my body, or like even other goals when it's like I'm not happy in my job or like the situation, but they don't really know how to get out of it or feel trapped by a mortgage, by a certain situation. Like, how do we even know what we should want and that
Mm.
there is a bigger why behind it? Is there a method to find that out?
Yeah, I think I go back to the psychological comment earlier that I think a lot of the goals we set in life, and especially when it comes to health and wellness and being better for ourselves, comes from that conversation around, what is your why? And because here's something that what I don't like about fat shaming is those people know, like people who are overweight know they're overweight. There's no one out there that doesn't think that. So you're telling them something they already know. And this is okay. You got to remember, Lisa, this is coming from a person, myself, who 10 years ago would have fat shamed somebody. In fact, I was kind of doing it with my daughter when she got up over 200 pounds, and I was like dropping these little hints and little comments or whatever. And it crushes me now to even think about it. But that they know this. But what you need to do is someone, whoever it is, needs to have a discussion with them about what do they want? What do they truly want? Like they record like if I were to sit down with someone, and I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a health coach. I've had just years in sports and athletics and seen it all kind of thing, but I would just say to them, what's important to you when it comes to your health? And I'm sure that the answers out of their mouth would be far more insightful than just looking at a number on a scale or anything else. It really is just what is your why? Like if you wanted to lose weight, how would you go about it?
Mhm.
And ask them effort questions.
I think
What are you
that's
yeah,
really
go ahead.
empowering. Yeah, because honestly,
Yeah.
like what came to mind for me when you were saying that was like, I think often the reason why people don't even though they don't like where they're at and they know they need to change, etc., but they don't, is that they either don't feel deserving, perhaps, like you feel
Yeah.
like why do I deserve a better job or a better relationship or the body that I'd actually like, how could I even achieve that? And like that leading to the second point of like, I don't know how. I feel so stuck, so trapped in like my daily routine when it comes to eating, or like I don't
Yeah.
even know how to start working out. And so by asking these wonderfully empowering questions like how would you, and maybe that person truly says like, I don't know. I can't eat less. I'm already so hungry all the time. Or like, oh, food is everything that's on my mind. Okay, let's talk about that. Why, what are you eating, or how often are you eating? Oh, I don't want to tell you because I'm kind of ashamed about that. So like, I think
Yeah.
shame is a big part. So as you mentioned, like shaming people that have excess body fat even more definitely isn't or doesn't sound conducive to achieving change at all.
No, and I think for those people that shame is really what is stopping them. It's walking into the gym and having people stare at you. And people often eat or overeat because they don't feel good about themselves. So it's their, we talked about the term comfort food. That couldn't be more present than in that moment when someone who is, grossly overweight and they eat to make themselves feel better because it's a control mechanism. It's the one thing they can control. It's no different than someone who maybe is OCD, right? It's a control mechanism. I recognize this in people in my family, but when it getting back to the nutrition and health thing, I I would basically just say to them, let's shoot the alligator closest to the boat. Okay, and that's another saying of mine. But it's like, what's one thing we could change?
Mhm.
No, there's no time frame on this. What is one thing we could change that you think would help you lead a healthier life? And I'm going to give you another great story about this. So 2 years ago, my daughter again, once again, she's still sitting at around 240, 6 foot, 240, still a strong girl, but just really she just wasn't healthy. And I recognized that aside from the fact she was ordering in food all the time, wasn't making her own meals, she was basically just, it was all takeout, Uber Eats, DoorDash. Um, that she was drinking, she thought she was drinking the Nestea iced tea because she got, oh well, iced tea, it's healthy compared to Coke or Sprite or whatever, right? And I said, you know what, Annika, I go, how about this? I said, do you think you could stop drinking the sugary drinks? Eat what you want, whatever. If you want to waste money and order in food, go ahead. Let's just shoot the alligator closest to the boat. I think this is the thing that really is messing up your metabolism. It's really not good for you. Let's switch to, something else. So she ended up switching to Coke Zero, which at least just took the sugar out. And all of a sudden, it was like, about 6 or 8 weeks later, like just I could sense just this subtle difference in her. And once again, Lisa, this wasn't about, okay, we're going to cut out Coke. We're going to stop eating like this. We're going to stop ordering in food. We're going to do la 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 because it just overwhelms those people. You can't overwhelm them because they give up even harder than they just done, right? And they won't go back to it because now they're scared. Shoot the alligator closest to the boat, meaning pick one thing that you know is unhealthy for you and just stop doing that, even if it's tiny, one small little thing. And then when you realize that you can do that and you get 30 days under your belt or 60 days under your belt, it's like, huh, that wasn't that hard. Okay, let's order in only 3 days a week instead of 7 days a week or six instead of seven. And you do that for a few weeks. And you got to just take the timeline completely away and just go, I'm just going to keep adding these small little habits, atomic habits. So long story short, all of a sudden, like this is now February of 25, this year, February of 25, she's doing better, but still not really back in the gym. And you're gonna love this story. It warms my heart. She's watching, I don't know how much you know about professional wrestling.
Minimal.
So WWF, professional wrestling, right? She just for some reason she got into it. And she sees this one female wrestler and she's like obsessed with her. And she goes, that's who I want to be. And this girl's just jacked. She, honest to God, Lisa, she's been in the gym 5 days a week, every week for the last 5 months.
Amazing.
And that's the other thing. You don't know what's going to inspire somebody, what's going to motivate somebody. I think people still like they still will hit a bit of a rock bottom before they make that change because when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing, that's when things happen.
Yeah.
Telling people they're overweight, telling people they're not a healthy, telling them you should go to the gym or tell doesn't help. Sorry, doesn't.
Yeah,
Because now they're
I
doing it for you.
absolutely. I 100% agree. I think and it comes from like this well, first of all, talking down sort of perspective and that
Yeah.
lecturing perspective. Nobody likes to be lectured. Like
No.
nobody, if you share a compelling story. You said, "Hey, I can imagine how you're feeling." Like if they share with you how they're feeling, you can be like, "I've been there." In your case, literally, you've been there, and just sharing your st story might inspire somebody, or even just like you did also, like, hey, if you want to, I'll pick you up and we can go to the gym together. And that is also another like encouraging kind of way. I do want to push back a tiny little bit, even though I absolutely agree.
Please do.
But I do also think that that whole opposite movement of like extreme body positivity, where it's like not to the sense of like, hey, you're worth something no matter what size. That's absolutely true. But where it's
Mhm.
like you're healthy no matter what size. I think that
Oh
that
no.
message
No, I agree
is
with you.
absolutely
Yeah.
diluted because there are people
Yeah.
out there that say like, oh, okay, I know I'm, 50% body fat percentage, and I'm feeling good. First of all, I don't necessarily
Yeah.
believe that. Second of all, your health markers certainly don't underline that you're actually as healthy as you say you feel or so
Yeah.
I think there is the other extreme where people are like, "Oh, don't worry, you're beautiful no matter what size."
Yeah,
And
I don't like that either.
yeah,
That whole body positivity movement, I swear it was funded and fueled by pharmaceutical companies and the food companies.
yes,
Swear.
yes,
Because they wanted people to go, "Oh, I'm gross. It's okay. I love myself and I love who I am." And it's like, well, that's good. And here's the thing, even I'll use my daughter as example. I love her no matter what, too. She could have
yes,
been 350 pounds. I'd still love her. But I would still let her know that I was concerned for her. I would still
yeah.
let her know that this isn't healthy. And so you're right. And so your pushback is right on line with what I'm saying. It's like I'm not saying we're saying it's okay to be, unhealthy, overweight, and whatever. We're trying to get those people to see what the benefits are and how they can feel better about themselves. But once again, you said it, Lisa, you can't lecture people, you can't tell people. I think the moment we release them from our expectations is when they can figure it out for themselves. And
Mm,
that's what I finally did. I said to my daughter, you know what? You're an adult. You can figure it out. You've been around sports long enough to know what's good and what's not good. I'm just going to stop bugging you about it. And then all of a sudden it changed. But I agree with you. No, I'm not into the body positivity movement either. I think it's good to love everybody, but I'm not going to sit there and say that how you're leading your life is positive or healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm curious that if let's say someone listening is like, okay, I want to make change. Do recognize that having a coach or a mentor or whatever is probably helpful in that
hmm
nonetheless, even if sometimes people need to figure things out on their own. I'd love to hear from you, like from your coaching experience, or maybe probably you've had mentors yourself as well. How do we get the most out of a mentorship or a coaching relationship?
Mm. I think it's finding the right fit. I think, once again, and you battle this and I battle this. There are thousands of nutrition coaches out there. There are thousands of business coaches out there, life coaches, development, whatever you want to call it. And which one do I choose? And it becomes overwhelming for people. Plus, the cost becomes overwhelming at times too. So you got to find the right fit. So there's a little bit of research to be done there. But I think it's important to have someone that knows you, cares for you, and supports your goals and just provides you with information. I know when you're working with a personal trainer, or when you're working with a nutrition coach like yourself, that it's I think that's a great first step. And so people who are listening, coaches like Lisa and others in your field, I think it is beneficial to spend a little bit of time and money on that relationship if you really have just exhausted all other possibilities. Now, there are other ways to go about it, but it depends on your level of need. It depends on your level of want, and knowledge too. So I think, having a coach that just supports you in your why, like you said before, and matches that. There's some people who are like, you gotta understand what your personality is first. And if you came from a background of, let's say an overbearing father who was very demanding and command and control type, maybe that works for you and you need a personal trainer who's going to beat on you every single day. Maybe that doesn't work for you. I'm sure it doesn't work for a lot of people. So it's finding that right fit. But I think for most people, it's hitting that point of the pain of making this change is going to be a lot easier than staying where I'm at. And they have to be the ones to make the decision. They have to take that first small step. If I was in a health and nutrition coaching position, the first question I would just ask for them is, why are we here today?
Mhm.
What is it that made you contact me, and let them tell that story, and then ask them, what's most important to you? Is it to please other people? Is it to meet other people's expectations? Or is it really just to love yourself again? Let's figure out what that motivation is. And
Yeah.
then small steps. And some people might go, "Oh, you're just milking them for more money when you go." No, that's not the point. It's that we talk about SMART goals, and I kind of have thrown that concept out the window of SMART goals. Not that that's not a good framework. I think the first goal is, can you do this single thing consistently every day for 30 days?
Mhm.
There's one coach out there I know, he basically says, before I even work with you, he goes, I want to see a picture of you making your bed every single day for 30 days.
That's awesome. I actually like
If
that.
you can, yeah. He goes, if you can do that, we can work together. If you
That's
can't do it,
amazing.
you're not going to waste your money with me, and I'm not going to waste my time with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's important because there's so many people who hire personal trainers and health people and nutritionists and whatever, but they're doing it because they think that it's almost like they think the personal trainer is going to do all the work for them. It's
So
the same thing with business coaches. It's like, I'm supposed to come in and fix your business for you. It's like, well,
yeah.
no, I'm here to guide you and to give you a framework for you to use. So the two most important things are it's to understand is it's psychological. So you have to determine, and you and I discussed this, your why and your motivation. If you don't have the motivation, you don't really have a why, don't start. Don't even try. And two, pick one small thing and let's see if you can just do that for 30 days. That's it. Because if you don't have that, you're going to fall off the wagon again. You're going to be depressed about it. You're going to be upset, and you're going to go back on this cycle of in and out and in and out and in and out. And this is a completely different Quinn Magnuson you're talking to, because 5 years ago it would have been set your goals, make sure I was very rigid and like almost militaristic about it. And then the effort over results, which was inspired by my daughter, in terms of her journey. And I'd like to talk about that in a little more in a second, but it's like, just put the effort in.
Mhm.
Stop expecting so much from yourself, because where depression and anxiety and burnout in work and all this comes, where that all comes from, often comes from what we think others expect from us, and the world's expectation of us.
The
And I
funny
know
thing
that's
about that
easy to
is,
say, but
well, the funny thing is that nobody really cares. Like, I mean,
no,
yes, your immediate family probably a little bit, but the truth is, we all think that there's the spotlight on us and like the world is watching us. The truth is, nobody cares.
yeah,
Nobody, like, even if you have a social media account with I don't know how many followers, in the end, they wouldn't even notice if you maybe like if you stop posting, they would be like maybe thinking, oh, what happened to that person for a second, and 2 seconds later they move on. And like, yeah, it's about us, what we want to get out of our life, how we define success, and the people immediately around us. I truly, truly think that. Um, as far as what you said about, uh, are you still here? I think we're having a little bit of a connective issue here. Could be my internet. Um, Hopefully he's coming back on in a moment. But yeah, I just basically wanted to wholeheartedly agree with that and say that those are two amazing strategies. And if the listeners are not taking away anything else from this other than those two of like getting clear on your why and starting with the most simple steps, and I think a coach can often help you rein your efforts in as well. So in the sense of basically making sure you're going small enough, because when we're starting off, we often want to go all out. We want to do everything at once. We're like, yes, I can do 10 things at once. I can change my life entirely. And you're unfortunately only able to keep that up for about a week, if that. And therefore losing motivation and kind of giving up on this whole endeavor and going back to who you were previously. So what I want to do now, so yeah, I just want to go back to what you were saying earlier in regards to efforts over results. You mentioned briefly that there was something else you wanted to touch on.
Yeah, so just to at least bring effort over results to a peak here is that we need to understand that it's really just about the work you put in and praise people for the work they put in, even if they're not getting the results they want. If they're putting the work in, praise them and reward them for that effort and for that work. Not just, did they hit their weight goal? Did they hit their, nutrition goals and whatever? That's fine. You can recognize that later, but reward the effort, right? That's really what EOR is all about. It's not about disregarding results. It's not necessarily even about not setting goals, but set it and forget it and focus on the day-to-day things that you're doing, like tiny little micro goals every day of did I show up to the gym when I was supposed to? Did I do my intermittent fasting properly, right? Those little tiny celebratory wins. And you're talking to a guy that hated tiny little celebratory wins. I was always like, I'm not celebrating until I reach the summit, right? So celebrate daily those little things that you're doing and see them as layers. And one of the greatest metaphors I heard from, it was from Alex Hormozy, and he said, "Can you imagine if you took a piece of paper and I took a paintbrush and I put a layer of paint on there, and you know what? You might not even see that layer of paint the first swipe, and then next day you put another one on top." And the day after, you put another one on top, and you're still not quite seeing it. You can see color, but you can't see any elevation. Well, imagine if you did it 30 days in a row. Layer paint, layer paint, layer paint. All of a sudden, that layer of paint is going to start to grow. And that's what effort and over results is really all about. And so my daughter and I even say stacking layers, right? Like we just stacking layers. Every day when she goes to the gym and she sends me a picture from the gym, it's like stacking layers. Love it.
I
Because
love that metaphor because the truth is also if you were just to dump a bucket of paint onto that piece of paper, it would run over on the sides and you would end up with the same amount of layers
yeah,
than if you just brush once, but you had a lot more left in the bucket. So it truly is a wonderful picture. Thank you for that metaphor.
the other thing I did want to bring up, and I want to talk a little bit about mental health. And the importance of health and eating properly and nutrition on mental health. So going back to my daughter's story, because she inspires me in most of my things that I do in life, she at the age of 13 got onto antidepressants, got onto like basically SSRIs, okay, which are drugs for mental health. She was on 5 different medications from the age of 13 till the age of 20. Well, she's still on most of them. And during that time that I was geeking out on health and nutrition and listening to podcasts like Peter T and Andrew Huberman and all those, they kept talking about the importance of creatine in mental health and helping stop future dementia and in old age. But what they also found were two things, is that creatine can also help with mental health in young people and just people in general. And so I told my daughter, I said, "Hey, Annika, there's this study that, if you take creatine, because everybody thought creatine was just a muscle builder thing. Back when I was in the 90s, when I was starting to take creatine, back when it first came out, that's what it was for. But she started taking it once again religiously in February of this year, every single day, regardless of workout, she was doing it. She's already off 2 of her 5 meds.
Wow. No way. That's
She's off two. I
amazing.
know it's incredible. And the other thing was, they also proved in studies and research that ketogenic diet also helps with mental health. And I don't know if you knew that, but once again, I kind of nerded out on this because I wanted to, as a dad, I wanted to find the solution for my daughter. And so she went to a higher protein, lower carb. We didn't go fully keto because that's a tough slog. But once again, she goes, "Yeah, I wake up with more energy and I don't have brain fog and I just feel more positive about life."
That's
It's
amazing.
like I had been preaching this to her for 5 years, and it finally clicked for her, and I'm so glad she found it. And so, creatine daily and nutrition. I now am almost anti-health region medical system big pharma. Well, I've never been a fan of big pharma, but that whole complex, if I can avoid it as much as possible, I will. I am going to use movement and nutrition to fix everything in me as much as I possibly can. Supplementation, proper eating, and proper movement. this is what's changed my life
Hmm.
as a former pro football player who's had 12 surgeries, whose body was falling apart. It was, I'm going to go out and do my own research. I'm going to go out and find, and I love the fact that we have so much information at our fingertips now that even when I talk to my own family doctor about some of this stuff, he looks at me like he has no clue.
They
And
have
I think the
so
medical
little
profession's like
training.
that.
They
Yeah,
have
they
so
don't,
little
they're
training on
trained to
nutrition.
push pills.
Yeah, absolutely. That it really is sad. I love what you're saying that this is just supposed to be the basis for everything. If on top of that there is medication needed, absolutely people go and get it, but we should always address things like sleep as well, like proper hydration, like movement as you
Yeah.
mentioned, like and in your daughter's case, higher protein diet, creatine, all these things in there. Amazing. I really, really think that many medications or yeah could be avoided, can be avoided if we're really laying the foundation so nicely. What a wonderful story, not just this one but all the other ones as well, Quinn. I really want to thank you for sharing a part of you, of your family, of your whole journey with us, and I have no doubt that at effort over results you guys are doing amazing work. So I'm gonna make sure to link all your handles in the show notes, and I definitely want people to go and check out your book when it comes out. And tell us again when it will come out, and it's gonna be called "Leave Your Bag at the Sports Bag at Gym
It
Bag."
was no, I thought it was going to be that. It's
Ah,
actually still going to be called Effort Over Results: The
cool,
Secret to Grit, Growth, and Greatness.
amazing.
And it basically would just speak to the science behind it, the research behind it, the big companies that are using it and how it's changing there. But also it's EOR, it's Effort Over Results for parents, it's for educators, it's for
Okay,
coaches
cool.
on the athletic field. Because this applies to everything.
Yeah.
It applies to health and nutrition too. I mean, it really is just a matter of keep praising the effort, keep rewarding the effort, the results will come.
Mm.
And so the book comes out in the fall. Hopefully, November 1st will be the release date for that. And basically all of my social handles, you can, if you just literally, if you just Google search effort over results, I think I'm fairly unique in that way. But we have our own podcast. Obviously, you've been a guest on there. We've got 35 episodes there. We've got Instagram, and I'm actually even on TikTok right now, which is funny. But my daughter was like, "Oh, Dad, you should go on TikTok." I'm like, "Well, I'm not dancing to any songs, but if
That's
you want me to, I will because I love my kids.
awesome.
I'll do that." But yeah, it was wonderful being on the show today, Lisa. I really wanted to be on the show because I don't want to be one dimensional. I want people to hear, I was really excited to tell the message of my journey from pro football to falling apart and my body falling apart and gaining weight and losing weight because I think it's important for your audience to hear that story from all walks of life.
Mhm.
And from different from male and female, from old and young. And so thank you for this opportunity, Lisa. It's been
No,
wonderful.
thank you. Honestly, it's been a true pleasure speaking with you. I know we're aligned in so many aspects, and I just think it's wonderful how you're sharing your message through your stories and just overall. So truly thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.